Hello and welcome to Simply inTAXicating. The GST caravan has been in the parking lot for just too long. Even at the 26th GST Council meeting, the entire industry and trade was expecting that the deadlock over the new GST return format will be broken. Somehow, this stalemate continues. What are the bottlenecks? Why is it that the GST Council is not able to decide or take a final call on the new return format? What are those proposals? We have been talking about and reading about the Nilekani model. The Infosys chairman, Mr. Nilekani, has made a detailed presentation before the council, and some of the state finance ministers have been backing that proposal. What is there in that proposal? How is it that proposal is substantial improvement over the format which the industry and trade have already experienced in the past, or it's going to be much better than other competitive proposals which are before the GST Council? There are various other aspects of the GST. EBA bill already notified again from 1st April. We will touch the different clarifications also issued by the CGST authorities with respect to variety of supplies. We will touch some of those issues. We have 4 domain experts. We have Mr. Pratik Jain, the national leader, indirect taxation, PricewaterhouseCoopers, our knowledge partner also. We have Mr. R K Singh, the former member, CESTAT. We have Mr. Niraj Bhagat, founder, Niraj Bhagat and Company. And we have, of course, Mr. R Sridhar, Senior Vice President, Hindustan, Coca. Let me start with Pratik. So what happened? You know, this council, in the expectations were running so high, and we were expecting that the council will certainly go ahead because the budget session will be ending soon. And a lot of the GST law committee has also made some recommendation. We were hoping that probably some taxation amendment bill, etc., will come to the parliament. So what happened?
So nothing much happened actually. On the law committee recommendation, I think it was fairly clear. What we were hearing was that they don't want to pick it up right now. Although I think this is the right time to pick it up, because some of those amendments are very important, because right now whatever amendment they will do, they'll be all prospective. So you are creating a situation that on 1st July, let's say if this amendment takes place on 1st of July 2018, for 1 year, those issues will continue. So that has not happened. Hopefully that'll happen in the monsoon session. 2 other things which was expected. One was e-way bill reconfirmation that April 1 it will come. That has happened. I think the good thing is that intrastate e-way bill will come later
right,
and in batches. So that will mean that on the portal there is load is not sudden. So that's good, and that will also give industry some time to adjust. On the return thing, as you mentioned, Nilekani's model I think was discussed, but no final decision has been taken. I think this Nilekani's model is more or less similar to the current model. The only difference that I could see was that GSTR 1, 2, 3 will be combined into one, and the workflow system will go away. So right now the way it was envisaged was that as a purchaser, if there are 100 invoices are put by the vendor, 50 are missing. I as a purchaser can upload those 50 invoices and the vendor has to approve. That system will go away, and only when the vendors upload, only that credit will be available.
Right.
I think the resistance which is coming is that industry is saying that provisional credit should continue, whereas one view is that no, only the amount which has been uploaded, that should be given. The other issue I think which has been debated is, should I link the credit with the payment of tax by the vendor? Because that's there in the law right now, that if you don't make the payment within 3 months, you have to reverse it, etc. So hopefully that will be addressed soon. Everything, of course, has been deferred by few months. GST 3B now continues for 3 months. I suspect the 3B will continue even after the new system comes into play. The reverse charge again has been deferred by 3 months, which is good. But what we were earlier hearing was the reverse charge for unregistered dealer purchase will only be limited to composition dealers, but we didn't hear anything on that.
Right.
The whole TDS and TCS provisions have also been deferred, and for the exporters, they have said the e-wallet system will come from 1st October 2018. I think there should be larger debate. At least the draft contour should come for the public debate, because that's a very complicated kind of a system, and if you miss that, then the exporters problem will continue. So I think on the return side, we were expect that in the next 2-3 months the resolution will come and 3B continues. The major concern of the government about the revenue collection, that continues, because the last month's also around 86,000.
We will touch that as a separate issue, the revenue collection. Yeah, Mr. Sridhar, in fact, as Pratik is suggesting, the Nilekani model, if we look at it, for instance, One is that provisional credit thing which exists today. Another one is that what he is suggesting, that suppliers will upload the invoices and the buyers will avail the credit naturally. But in case there is a mismatch, then this amendment, like what happened in some of those Delhi High Court decision or even the Bombay High Court decision, where actually putting the onus
on the person
the suppliers. So the mismatch thing, of course, in case of VAT, perhaps it was a different system. But in GST, we already have this provision in the law. So probably, Mr. Nilekani is talking about amending that and delinking that. And that is where I guess is,
Yeah, actually, one thing I would say with regard to the matching, the entire nation, even with the VAT, is looking at the concept of matching. Let us put it like this. There are so many consultants like PwC who are telling, irrespective of the fact that there is no reconciliation in process, you do your back-end work. For example, we have done it up to October, November, and we gave it a break because we thought the last 25th and 26th, they will give some analysis and reasons, or they'll give a final model. But now, since they have not come up with a model, everybody is trying to, at least for the top 80-90% of our supplies, that is few suppliers who constitute 90% of my total purchase cost, I will reconcile and keep it before the year end is over. That is July to June is over.
Right.
So I think, how do you say, default rule, the industry or a medium-sized industry would fall. I'm not going to small. I'm at least going to medium.
Right.
They would rather prefer to do this route.
Right.
In protection. So this is, I think, would be my
Sir, what about, sir, the issues which you have been also reading about it, sir, and through various channels and sources. How do you look at, sir, this entire, somewhere we are stuck. The deadlock is a little more serious. It is persisting, and the variety of ideas and proposals coming up. We have a separate committee also which is looking into it, and that committee has also made some presentation before the council. Mr. Nandan Nilekani's presentation is in addition to what is there presented by the committee. So, sir, looking at it, somewhere we are getting stuck largely because, again, the matching principle. Somewhere the revenue is not keen that this should be delinked, because then they will not be able to keep track of the ITC being availed. So that is where, so this, I think, what is your perception about it, sir?
My perception is a little more fundamental than the superficial thing which actually come on the surface. This law, if you look at the law post-independence, probably is a law which is lacking in preciseness. A taxation law has to be absolutely precise. This law lacks flawlessness to a degree which makes it in need of a surgical operation. What is being done is to have some pill here and some ointment there, and so some minor operations here and there.
Changes.
Now, if you look at the law, and we are not even at the law, right now we are only stuck with the procedures. This is not functioning, return is not going. If you come to the language of the law, that's the major flaw, and that's why these things are coming. Now, after 1 year, if you are not able to implement a major part of the law, which means there's something seriously wrong with the law. The law committee, as my learned friend said, came out with fairly reasonable suggestions, but they were thought to be too drastic by the powers that be to implement them. I must say one thing though, that the entire episode shows the patience and sagacity of our political leadership. They have been very patient with the flawed law in the hope that it will work. Unfortunately, that's not happening. If after 8 months you're not able to put in place your RCS mechanism, your TCS mechanism, your reverse charge mechanism, there's something seriously wrong there. And therefore, what is required is a relook at the law. So long as you keep tinkering with this law, new difficulty will keep coming. So that there is a need to have a relook, a fresh look, and that was attempted by the law committees and all. But somehow the effort never paid off.
Right, I get the point.
I just wanted to make only one point. With regard to these gaps that are coming in the revenue, there's a lot of newspaper reports, so many thousands of crores are pending. From a return perspective, unless you expect all the 1 crore SSEs to do their 3 months complete return in one complete cycle. So 3 cycles you do, then you will get vast majority of information for understanding where the gap lies. Now, any assessee, small, medium or large, has he done 3 complete cycles? We do it in fits and turns. I have done my GST R1 of January by February 10th. But then where is my January, I mean 3B, when did I do it? I did it by February 20th. Now, so there is, this is definitely a huge cause for concern for the industry, so that only when you get to a complete cycle analysis, then much more data mining can be done. That is from the government side.
Okay, Mr. Bhagat, perhaps you will have a view on this.
When it comes to matching of the inputs with the that has been uploaded by the suppliers, when you see the pre-GST regime, when you see the service tax and the VAT, that was not the concept. So the authorities, they used to do the audits, and based on that audits, they will see that whether the inputs which have been claimed by the assessees, whether they have been paid the taxes also or not. And then they used to go back to that assessee which have not uploaded or which have not paid the taxes. So that regime, that way, that was a comfort with the industry. So whatever inputs, invoices they have got, if the seller is genuine and if it's locatable, then there was no issue with the buyer. But that is not happening with the GST, and that's why the assessees are facing issues in that. So I think it will long way go in assessing the issue of the assessees. That will take some time.
Naturally. Pratik, a couple of things you must have noticed of late. So you must have noticed that 2 arrests were made in Mumbai,
yes,
in GST. Of course, the government, as you said, that because of this prospects of revenue shortfall, the field formations are gearing up. And those 2 cases was given very wide publicity, in fact. For the first time I noticed that something happening in Mumbai in a commissionerate, the Press Information Bureau coming out with detailed and Twitter, of course, in addition to that. I mean, now the focus appears to be because of this lull period when a lot of things appear to be stuck, decisions not being taken, but the focus is more on arrest, focus is more on anti-evasion, focus is more on, say, e-way bill again, they are insisting, notwithstanding the fact that the server thing, they have not done the pilot again. I mean, whether it will sustain, it will cave in again, what will happen, staggered model, of course, they have accepted that intra thing, they will do it in June. But, again, this panic thing rather than serve.
As a matter of fact, that's my worry, because if you use wrong tools to achieve some objectives, the result is going to be messy. You cannot use anti-evasion efforts to plug a revenue shortfall, which is a systemic problem. And I sincerely hope that the investigation is conducted professionally. The sanctity of investigation is very important to keep the faith in the investigating agency. This threat of arrest for voluntary payment is an anathema to the sanctity of investigation. And therefore, it will be very, very necessary for the supervisory officers to ensure that investigative tools are not used for plugging a revenue gap by hook or by crook. They are used only to catch the offenders and not used to arm twist to so-called window dress the revenue.
Right.
Although, just on this point, I think the arrest which has been made, I think it further underlines the fact that invoice matching is necessary, to my mind. Because I think the arrest was made in a situation where there were fake invoices on the basis of which you were claiming credit.
Right.
Now you can only do that if there is no matching, right? Because right now you just have to file 3B and you claim the credit based on whatever you think is input as credit. If invoice matching happens, then this kind of fraud will not happen, right? I think that those kind of things should be publicized. So I think I'm with the government on this, that publicizing is important because the revenue collection is hugely. I mean, there is huge shortfall in the collection. There must be some reason, and tax evasion is certainly one of the reasons. The problem is that because they can't have reverse charge and all of those things, they can't collect tax upfront for exporters because the refunds are not happening. They have no option but to wait until the time, because the revenue collection is dropping. They have again no option but to tighten the administration. So tightening the administration per se is not bad. It's just that they have to make sure that there is appropriate grievance redressal which happens, and the people on the top give clear instruction to the field formation that this is how you need to carry the investigation. I think that's important, but per se, making arrests and publicizing it, I don't think that's a problem.
Mr. Sridhar, in fact, without going into this merit of the case, which we are not aware of, what are the facts, but I'm just looking at that the fact that the whole world is watching us and the GST, the Indian GST with a lot of its unique features, you know, somehow it looks little stuck somewhere in the tunnel. Now, I mean, do you think that this kind of anti-evasion and very large publicity will give a wrong signal to investors, etc., to the whole world that, you know?
It depends on how much of activity is going around that. To be very honest, I would rather agree with what Pratik and Sir said very clearly. That can't be used as the basis for clearing the systemic problems. If you recollect in this very same kind of a program, previously we said up to March we should discuss procedural issues, and after March we should be discussing systemic issues. We have discussed this. Now point is systemic issues also, because even if you were to compare the need for the amendment, are they not more underlying right now? Why wait until the monsoon session? Why can't we do it immediately? For example, the amendments proposed in section 15 to make more credit notes more liberal. There was a lot of reports, there were a lot of press reports.
Yes.
Whatever is the empowered committee view or whatever that committee that is set up, whether it is a Vinod Kumar committee or some other committee. Point is, if they have come to a conclusion, if that is need to be perhaps looked at, if you do it right now, there will be less of interpretation issues. For example, I would like to take only one scope which is very relevant. There was a circular issued in the last week of February with regard to the Senvat credit, which is disputed and carried forward in terms of the opening provisions.
Right.
To a reader, it looks apparently fair because you are not supposed to enjoy anything that you are not entitled to find. But should it not have been a part of the law?
We should have.
No, but is it fair? I mean,
First of all, there was an adjudication order passed, you are on appeal, you paid the pre-deposit. That's another issue of it. Then, if the adjudication order is passed, the pre-deposit was there, then there was already this situation existing on July 1st. We had written down the code from 139 onwards for the n number of sections, crossing 140 after 3 rounds of debates. Draft 1, draft 2, going up and down between the council and the empowered committee, so many things happen. Now after 7 months, if you were to turn around and say that, no, this is exactly my view, you should not utilize, you prevent utilization, if you utilize it, we will recover it. Those kind of things are, in my opinion, far more damaging than these kind of things, because they are all settled. They are all settled. And to tell you the truth, 90% of the Senvat cases, with the due respect to the government of India, they lose in the CESTAT.
It's a serious lapse, sir, do you think, sir? You know, I mean, this after 6 months.
I have read some articles on that circular which have called it unreasonable, draconian, regressive, whatever. But my view is very different on that. And the view is the following. Once there is an adjudication order or an appellate order which says that this credit is not admissible, and that order is in operation, then I cannot fathom any reason as to why such a credit can be allowed to be utilized. The things are different in demand. In demand, the onus is on the department to prove that, it was payable. In case of credit, the onus in any case is on the person to prove that it was admissible. But a step ahead of that, if an authority says quasi-judicially that it is not admissible, and then to let it be utilized, will be actually condemning that order per se. So, the circular per se is not wrong in that sense. And I'll send you an article on that soon.
Okay.
Right. No, but I would like to just, because even Pratik could have a different view. Let us take that a person paid on the road transport freight prior to July, let's say June, he paid on reverse charge mechanism, let's say 200 crores. Now, considering the Supreme Court judgment, the recent judgment of the Supreme Court on the first week of February, let us assume he's carried forward 50 crores. If you look at the Supreme Court judgment, he's right on the slot of the circular. He's right on the slot of the circular, but if you compare the 2014 amendment made in the Senvat credit rules and the circular issued by the government of India in 2014, honoring that if you, in case your sale is complete at the doorstep of the buyer, then you are entitled. Then once again, we are at quandary. We are only talking about these kind of points. So we are not talking theoretically. This is an actual example. 100 crores I paid, 50 crores went forward from 139. But then, pursuant to the Supreme Court judgment of 1st of February, I am not entitled. That's the clear position of this circular of 23rd February. Now, this was also protected by an earlier circular. Now, where are we right now? These are the things that will put our international reputation, the fact that we are having a settling down period in GST, people will empathize with us because any country will have the same problem.
Right.
We are not going to paste anything negatively, but the fact is, these are the things which must be deliberated more than
right. Okay.
taking away 50 crores from a person in 139, 140. How will the person handle these affairs?
Okay. So aberrations are okay, but not as a system. Fine. So I mean, Pratik, looking at this scenario, I mean, whatever is coming up now, naturally, the deficit, the revenue deficit is the fountain which is triggering all these issues. So revenue deficit, what should be the revenue? I mean, ideally, I mean, looking at some of the budget estimates, figures, etc.
I mean, if you look at the budget, they expect around 61,000 crores of CGST every month from April onwards. That makes it roughly 1,20,000 crores as a collection. Now, till December, we were all taking a view that there was an opening credit and all that. We don't know how much is the actual amount which is being paid because huge amount of opening credit people are claiming. But January, February collection, particularly February numbers which have come for January of 86,000 crores, I think is a real concern. And that, if you look at the government yardstick, assuming that 86,000 crore, and bear in mind there is a large amount of refunds which are still stuck, so that 86,000 crore would further go down if all the refunds would have been given. So then they're looking at a huge revenue shortfall, something like 25,000-30,000 crore per month. I mean, if you look at that number. But hopefully again, in next couple of months things should be better. One is the e-way bill coming in. No, sorry, going back to that, I think it's around 20,000 crore because if you look at 61,000 crore and 40,000 crore, that's it. Now, one is e-way bill. Second is if you look at this meeting, they have talked about some data analytics. They've said that 3B and GSTR1, etc. are not matching the liability that you're declaring. So they already have a lot of data to investigate further. There will be an administrative tightening which will happen, and we will see more of these, sort of raids and all of those things which will happen next 2-3 months. I think this composition scheme needs to be investigated. I think that's one large area where I think there is some room or evasion is happening. But other than that, you can't really figure out. I mean, the original teething problem would have gone by now. I don't think that now people can say we are not able to file the return because 3B is a very simple return. And out of 90 odd lakh dealer, only 55 lakh dealer are filing the return. There must be something seriously wrong somewhere.
So, Bhagat, you have some idea about it. The latest data suggests that even a state like Maharashtra or Gujarat or Karnataka, where the data mismatch, if you look at the number of taxpayers registered and the number of taxpayers actually filing 3B, the gap is about little more than 30%. So this is a huge gap. That means 1/3 of the registered taxpayers not filing. What could be the reason at the ground level?
You see, earlier pre-GST regime, a lot of people, they used to take the help of lawyers and the non-qualified people to file the returns, the VAT returns and all that. The post-GST, those people were filing their returns based on the experience. Now the GST is a new law, so ultimately these people, they don't have an experience of filing. So these people, the smaller and the medium-sized companies, they are dependent on these people to file their returns. So these the accountants and the non-qualified professionals, they were helping them to file. So they are not conversant with the GST law. So that is why they are delaying for one reason or for the other. So that is one of the major reasons down the line the people are not able to file. So they want to comply, but yes, they are not getting the help for filing the returns.
Okay, I mean, Mr. Sridhar, maybe you should take a look at it. The latest, revenue collection figure, the 3B, the total number of 3B filed for the month of January, about 55 lakhs. The total registered taxpayers is about 1 crore. Incidentally, that the cancellation of registration button is still not working. Yes. A huge number of people who are filing nil return and they are keen to cancel it. They have been emailing us that it is not working. What is it that the government doesn't want people to cancel?
Out of that 1 crore, let's say 18 lakh are composition dealers who will file quarterly returns.
Quarterly return.
If you remove those, the point is around 80-85 lakh dealers.
So 70, 72, 73. Still there is a huge gap. Even if we presume that there are 5-6 lakh people are probably they want to cancel registration, they are not So what could be this huge gap is something which is worrying the government.
Actually, apart from the reason given earlier, there is one very fundamental reason. When the law implementation is messy and the department is on the defensive, things are not happening and they say, okay, don't do this, we'll do it 3 months after. The impression goes around that for some time we can take the liberty of not complying with the law. And that is the present situation. Because the trade thing that right now government itself is trying to create its own mess, they don't know what to do, and therefore if we don't follow the law at the moment, nothing major will follow, they'll take a lenient view. And that seems to be working the psychology of the trade.
And the invoice matching is not happening. So if I don't file the return, my purchaser doesn't have a problem as of now.
Right.
Another issue I would like to point out is that, in initial months, so when the people were still learning about the GST, they were not able to file. Now, if they file now, they have to pay a penalty of almost 100 rupees per day. So they file it now, they pay the penalty, then they can file the next month's return. So that is also taking them back.
But apparently the Bombay High Court has said that you file your return with penalty, and that penalty will be refunded within a week. That's the order given by...
But nobody wants to block the money. They don't have faith that the money will come back.
But the point
But that cannot be at the cost of obeying the law.
That's okay. When you see the...
Obeying the law is...
No, I think that's, as Sir is pointing out, they all think that after a month or so, penalty will be waived off. So
something like that. The number itself is so huge.
Sort of decision
Right. Okay.
And that's why it's very important that any taxation law is implemented properly, and therefore should be implemented only after 100% preparation for it. This is the only taxation law in the history of the post-independence India which got implemented without and knowingly that we are not fully prepared for it. And that, I think, is causing all these difficulties.
Okay, so let me go back to Mr. Sridhar. What about these exporters? In fact, the latest council meeting again, they have given relief for another 6 months. And does it really amount to relief? I am
only wanting to know whatever we have in the same program discussed the refunds that were stuck up to October. Then the board gave a specific instruction and a circular was also issued to clear the backlog. That backlog has not been released till. There are some press reports also that the backlog is still pending. That is more important for the merchant exporters who are not able to get the LUTs on. So what about those exporters' money which is still pending? That is one side to it. The second side to it, as such, I think Pratik very correctly put it, that must be not prepare for an e-wallet. That preparation time, if we start now, maybe by October we'll get fully prepared. If we do some true trial runs, put some exporters, put some good organizations like FIEO, get them involved, ask them to bring in their small, medium and large people inside the whole process and ask them to get trained, so that would in turn encourage, after November, December of 2018, we'll have less of a problem.
Okay. So have the problem really abated a bit? The exporters, I think about how many, 12,000 crore was the total figure or something like that?
No, sir, more than that.
More than that
was what was discussed.
Is there any official figure on there that how much, because it's still being speculated?
I think I was looking at the press release where GST Council noted that IGST refunds have started. So that's good, but still a long way to go. I think they started the manual filing of refund applications, but manual filing also, the circular was not very clear what kind of prescribed documents do you need for manual filing, and therefore manual filing also is just not working. My sense is that they'll have to come up with some kind of simple system. I mean, something like a drawback or something. I don't know whether this actual paying and giving a refund, I mean, I've not seen any authority being very, at least in India, but whatever I've seen for the last couple of decades, very, very efficient in refunds. Unless a drawback kind of system that you get 2%, 3% of the invoice value up front, that kind of a system will have to come eventually. I mean, e-wallet system looks very good on the paper, but let's see how it is implemented. If it is not done, I think exporters will continue to have a problem.
Yeah.
So, what about this? The CBEC chairman recently said that we are going to set up camps from 15th of March.
Yeah.
And we are going to clear, all the dues, etc., etc. And this camp system is good enough to clear something which is pending for so long.
I hope it will be successful, because the past experience of camps has not been a very happy one. When it comes to refunds and stuff, people are extra cautious. Yes. So this camp approach, I hope they'll succeed. I mean, my
And we
best
also
wishes to them.
wish them that they should succeed,
Yeah,
you know,
my
because
best wishes to
ultimately our exports are getting hammered now, in fact. You know, unfortunate part is after the bank fraud, they are not getting LOU also.
I mean,
So
there must
that
be
is
some
another
reason for them to say first pay and then take refund. Otherwise, if you look at the fundamental level, it's totally inefficient for somebody to first pay and then take it back. I mean, it doesn't make any sense in the normative sense. But there must be some reasons for doing it, I'm sure.
Right, sir. So on this note, let me first thank my guest and of course PwC, my knowledge partner, and you know, for we got quite a few insights. The issues appear to be pending for quite a long time. Still, the kind of you know, the ill effects of those issues and the long pendency will continue to hurt the industry, the sentiment, the compliance, as rightly suggested, that the good number of people are not filing, you know, their returns, even 3B, and Mr. Bhagat says that, you know, that the people, they don't trust, they feel that their even penalty money will get stuck. If it has to be paid today, why not to pay it tomorrow? If there is nothing extra, or maybe there is a hope that the waiver will come their way. So, I mean, looking at all these aspects, the non-compliance, of course, is a serious issue, and the GST Council need to come up fast and sort out all this, particularly the return format and the preparation. The group of ministers on IT is already looking into it, and I believe Mr. Modi, Sushil Modi, has given a statement that he is very happy with the way the Infosys has improved the things, but the taxpayers continue to have a lot of grievances, and maybe, you know, a fresh set of probably, you know, fresh look needs to be taken, so that even an issue like cancellation of registration, I mean, this kind of basic facility should not be denied. Thanking you all for watching TIOL Tube. Thank you, sir.